Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Code. Today I'm joined by Yehuda Lindell, who's a prominent cryptographer. He's been working at MPC since as early as 1998. So, for all of you noobs like me who've only started hearing about it over the last few years, when the likes of Fireblocks and Zengo and other big wallet companies started to implement MPC into their software, Yehuda has been talking about it probably since some of you were born. Today, Yehuda is head of cryptography at Coinbase. Some of you might have heard of it. After his company Unbound Security was acquired by Coinbase in 2022, Yehuda manages an entire team of cryptographers at Coinbase, and they're invested very deeply in continuing to keep our industry, our wallets, and our funds secure, and have produced some phenomenal resources which they've contributed generally to the community, and they continue to work on in-house at Coinbase. Without further ado, Yehuda. Welcome to Beyond the Code, the podcast where industry experts and brilliant legal minds discuss the impact of new emerging technologies. I'm your host, Yitzy Hammer, a lawyer and tech enthusiast. Join us as we explore the legal, regulatory, and ethical issues surrounding AI, blockchain, and more. Get ready to go beyond the code and stay ahead of the game. Yehuda, thank you for joining me. I generally don't like introducing people because we don't actually know one another. If anybody is best positioned to introduce you, it's you. So I will let you do that in a minute. I'll just say that you're a prominent cryptographer and I guess MPC expert, or at least you've been researching MPC since 1998, right? Okay. Sure. Which is like a pretty long time. You know, I only ever heard of MPC recently in like the context of a bunch of crypto wallets that are implementing it. So you're definitely an OG when it comes to MPC cryptography, and you have, I guess, like quite a long career in academia, and then took that bold step out of academia to actually, take the research that you did all those years and implement them in some very cool companies, including Coinbase. I actually heard a lecture that you gave at A16Z about how you made that migration over from being a researcher to being somebody who, practically implements that research, I guess in the field, we can call it. So I'd love to hear more about that today on the show. But I guess the best thing to do would be just to start by letting you introduce yourself to the audience. I like to generally do like a very big deep dive. All right. So go back like as early as you can in your career. I guess even like maybe how you got from Australia to Israel. And like, what your first steps were in the industry, how you first became acquainted with cryptography and crypto, blah, blah, blah. I'll let you take us in the journey.
Okay. Well, I think you said everything important already, but, okay. So yeah, I grew up in Australia, not in Israel. So often people are surprised by my lack of a heavy Israeli accent when I speak English. I do have a ruined Australian accent, so you have to be good to catch it. I actually moved when I finished school at 18. I had a gap year. I came to Israel for a year, fell in love with it. I wanted to stay another year. My parents said, no, you need to come home and study. So I went home and told them I'm moving to Israel. I spent a year working in an organic fruit shop in 1990. Made money, then I moved to Israel, and then, army service and so on and so forth. And then really a very pure academic career. So my undergrad, straight after that, I did my master's in data mining. So it wouldn't be in crypto now, it would be in AI. So I guess I could have gone to either of the big hypes way before it was hyped. I enjoyed my master's, but I felt that it was not a rigorous enough field. I wanted something more rigorous with more stronger mathematical foundations and theoretical foundations. So I went to the Weizmann Institute to do my PhD. And then I really came across cryptography sort of, I guess, serendipity, like no real plan, but I very much enjoyed the theory behind it. And what's interesting about cryptography is that it's a field that the theory and the practice is actually very, very close. So in the beginning of my second year of PhD, I was already married. I had my first kid. So, in Israel, we start late. I started my undergrad at 24. Um, I actually got a job in the beginning of my second year consulting for Aladdin, which was like a security company that did also a lot of cryptography. And although I was doing purely theoretical research, what was very interesting was that I could actually contribute a lot just by the mindset, because to be a cryptographer, you have to have an adversarial mindset. Everything you see, it's about, okay, how would I bypass that? Or how would I get around that? Or how would I protect that?
How would one define cryptography, just like for the layman? What is a cryptographer?
Cryptography? So there is no one definition, but the way I define it is cryptography is the science of protecting computation and data in any setting where you have multiple machines and you either don't trust each other or you don't trust an external hacker from getting inside. That's the way I define cryptography. So encryption, we trust each other. We don't trust someone who's, we have the fear of someone eavesdropping. MPC, we don't even trust each other. We want to do a computation, want to compare our DNA to know if we're relatives. You can do that. You can upload to 23andMe. I personally don't recommend, at least from the privacy side. We actually run an algorithm. We can do an MPC so that nothing is revealed.
Oh, we're not at MPC yet. Don't jump to MPC.
Not that. I'm just saying that, but it comes into
I just wanted to set the ground rules for
anything where
for the
any
podcast.
adversarial environment where you have multiple machines is the way I would define cryptography. And
you were at Aladdin.
And
it's taking you back.
So it's a very, I was doing very purely theoretical research, but I was able to contribute already in the applied scenario. And my PhD was purely theoretical. I went on to do my postdoc also at IBM in New York. Also, was pure theory. My research for the first 10, 15 years of my career was purely theoretical. It was still very early days of MPC. We're trying to understand what how to even define things properly, what you can do in different settings, just from a feasibility perspective.
What were the main pain points that you guys were trying to solve at that time with cryptography?
Yeah, so pain points is very much when you see that you have a practical problem that you want to solve. We weren't thinking about practical problems. Again, we talked about, you could use this for auctions and for elections and for privacy, but it was much more about just understanding the fundamental nature of what you could and could not do in this adversarial world. And that's really the beauty of theory, and that's why I'm a very strong believer in theoretical research, because you don't necessarily have a specific use case in mind. What you're trying to do is trying to understand the world, and you understand the world. If in some instances, not all, that turns out to be useful decades later. So the work that we did in the late 90s, early 2000s, it wasn't unclear whether this would ever be used, is now what enables us to do what we do today in practice. So you have to believe in theory. I'm a strong believer in theory, but I'm lucky because my theory actually ended up being very, very impactful. So it does happen. But we weren't thinking about specific pain points or specific things. It was really more about understanding the nature of this computation, which is really what computer science is about, understanding the nature of computation. And this is understanding the nature of computation in this adversarial environment, which is what the world really is. And we're seeing that more and more as time goes on. Okay.
So you were at Aladdin.
I was at Aladdin for like a year and a half or so consulting, and then I stopped because I got some special fellowship and I couldn't work. It doesn't matter. When I came back from my postdoc and I went to Bar-Ilan University as a starting professor, I went back to consult. And ever since then, until I co-founded Unbound in 2015, I was consulting a day a week or a day every 2 weeks. Aladdin was acquired by SafeNet. It was acquired by Gemalto. It was acquired by Thales. So I got out in the Gemalto time, but I had a lot of experience with what was required to bring to build a security product. It wasn't so much to bring it to market because I wasn't very much on the technology side. But that was a very interesting process. In the beginning, when I went there was a huge amount of work because a lot of the stuff was just not implemented very well. And now you had to work out, how can I fix it to make it secure in a way that has minimal changes and maybe isn't perfect, but is good enough for what we want in the product. But as time went on, I had less and less to do because the software engineers realized that it's just as hard or easy to implement cryptography correctly and incorrectly. So if you know ahead of time what's correct, then Yehuda won't hassle you and make you change it and make you miss deadlines. So at some point, they started asking me everything before they did anything. And then the answers are very quick. Oh, you want to do that? Okay, just do that. Most of the time, not always, but most of the time it's pretty easy answer. But then everything was just fine. So I had less and less to do. Yeah.
Fair enough.
But it was a very good lesson. And then in around 2013, 2014, I had the initial idea that everything that we'd been doing in our research at MPC, making it more and more efficient, was actually could solve the problem of protecting keys. This had nothing to do with cryptocurrencies at the time. We hadn't thought about that application. And in fact, in Unbound, most of our revenue and income was for like large banks and technology companies like HSM and smart card replacements. And we also provided a tool for or software solution for the cryptocurrency world, blockchain world. That was about 20-25% ARR, and Coinbase acquired us for that. So
just like as far as your mindset, 2013, 2014, when you went and you launched Unbound, like as a cryptographer, were you aware of like the Bitcoin white paper, and what were your thoughts on it?
Well, it's a good question. I'm not sure I was aware of it. I may have been aware of it, but it wasn't on my radar so much. As an academic cryptographer at the time, if I was aware of it, then what I would have thought about it is it's an interesting, very different type of consensus protocol. Not something necessarily for money, so to speak, but if you look at what Bitcoin is, that's what the Bitcoin white paper is. It's a different way of achieving consensus rather than Byzantine agreement, which actually I did some work on a couple of papers in the early 2000s. This is a very, very different way of looking at it, and a very different way of working. And the fact that this could actually be money, and it's something that wasn't something that was on my radar, I think, at all at that time.
Interesting. Okay. But ultimately, like as your product at Unbound started to unroll, you realized that there were applications for crypto payments like across chains. And like, how did that start to materialize? What were and are your thoughts generally on like the crypto ecosystem, which is, very different than like traditional tech ecosystem, and certainly from like I imagine like the cryptography forums and conferences that you've probably found yourself in prior to entering into the crypto world.
Yeah, it's a very, very different ecosystem. It's a very innovative one, and one which is very interested in trying out brand new technologies, which is great. It's also, one has to be careful. Like a lot of people are also implementing things not necessarily safely. For me, I view the crypto world as two very completely different and orthogonal potential benefits or utilities. One of them is the economic one, which is, here is a currency that, no one can control and can devalue by printing money. It's a cross-border currency. It's economics. I know nothing about it. I've read a couple of economics books, but it's not my field.
Yeah, sure. No, but ultimately, it's being built on cryptography rails. So like it does integrate very closely with your
direction
field.
of utility. The other direction of utility is one which says, here is a different way of working that can disrupt the technological foundations of the financial world. And that's a technological stack, and it's nothing to do with Bitcoin or Ethereum per se, just the ability to directly hold money and transact on it, and the amazing things you can do with that. And that's a utility that I understand much more. But for me, specifically, it doesn't really matter why you want this, what your vision of the utility is. For me, my job is to protect protect cryptocurrency from being stolen. That's what I do.
Right.
It doesn't really matter to me why you put it there. If you've put your college fund into Coinbase or your pension fund or whatever it is, then my goal is to make sure that that is safe. And it doesn't really matter what you want to build up on top of it, but that's the way I see my role and my mission in life right now. And I'm very happy to have that. It's a very, I think that's a very meaningful mission. And in terms of the technological stack, again, that's kind of what I said earlier. What's really amazing about it is that it's cutting edge technology. We're not talking about if you do academic research and that manages to become practical or used in 10 or 15 years, that's really fast. Whereas in the crypto world, you can publish a paper and it can be in, it can be actually in production a year later. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes that's scary.
Fair enough. So all of, that mission that you talked about of like securing transactions, you do all that with MPC. So just like for the layman, what is MPC?
Yeah. Okay. So before I say what, I just caveat what you said. We actually use a mix of technologies. Maybe we can come back to that later on. I'm a very big believer in defense in depth and mixes of technologies. But what is MPC is science and technology. I guess now it's very technology of when you have multiple machines or entities interacting with each other, and you want to compute something together in a way that protects
in public and private.
Yeah, protects the entities from each other. We don't trust each other necessarily. And there are two main things that we want to secure this computation. One, privacy, that you shouldn't learn my private input. The only thing that you should be able to learn is the actual output. And on the other hand, the output should be correct computation. So I'll come back to the DNA example, and then I'll talk about how we use it for protecting the currency transaction side. So in the DNA example, again, we want to compare our DNA to check if we're relatives. The reason I want to do that is because I know that you come from a high ultra net worth family, and I want to claim that I'm your brother, and so we want to make sure this computation is secure. You don't want it to come out that I am actually your brother and I'm not, because then I'm going to get a portion of your inheritance. So that's the correctness requirement. Mm-hmm. The privacy requirement is that we don't want to reveal our DNA to each other, because that's certainly sensitive information. That's the classic way that MPC was looked at from the very beginning. It's a way of achieving privacy-preserving computations between different entities. So we want to pool our data. It can be two banks that want to compare information about customers to look for fraud. For example, you can do any of those things. In theory, you can do anything that you want with MPC. In practice, it's not always going to be efficient enough. When we think about transaction signing, the big problem with cryptographic keys is that if they're stolen, then you lose everything. So when you have in the cryptocurrency world, your key, your private key, is your money. If I get your private key, then I can just take all of your money. In fact, I can even take all of your money without getting your private key. If I'm able to access the machine that holds your private key and give it a command to transfer all of your money to me, then I've also stolen all of your money. So the traditional way of protecting that would be, let's build a fortress around the device that holds this key. So that might be a hardware fortress or software protections or whatever it is. The two problems with that approach are, one, that you can't build a perfect fortress. There's no such thing as perfect security. That's true in physical security, border security, and it's true in software security. And the second thing is that even if you have a perfect fortress, somebody has to be able to give, someone's going to give an instruction to that fortress to transfer the money. Well, how do you protect that machine? And so you get into a problem. And MPC breaks that paradigm by saying, rather than putting the key in one place, let's split it into multiple pieces, shards, so that each subset of shards below a certain threshold reveals no information about the key. And in order to carry an operation, you need a quorum of parties to come together to actually compute, but they never reveal the shards to each other because we don't trust each other. So if I say I want 5 out of 10 parties to be able to sign, If you corrupt any 4, you'll get no information. So you need to really corrupt the full quorum, and that's the only way that you can do anything. And now what happens is if I split those shards on different types of devices, maybe different clouds, or in the cloud and in my data center, or maybe in on mobile devices and on your infrastructure. We had a company at Unbound, who was a customer of ours, who was using this for cryptocurrency, and their entire IT infrastructure was taken over by attackers. The entire IT infrastructure. But they had shards that were split between the IT infrastructure and the mobiles of employees who were also participating in those transactions. So even though their entire IT infrastructure was taken over by attackers, they couldn't get any money, which is amazing. So you're able to split the key and put it into different types of environments and force the attacker to do much, much more. And in terms of being able to issue a request to this fortress, once you have multiple different parties participating, then each of those parties will not carry out the transaction unless they've verified that it's a legitimate transaction. So that verifying that it's legitimate is never perfect, but you can have signed policies, you can run fraud checks. In the case of very large exceptional amounts, you can require an additional person to actually manually verify the transaction. That doesn't work in all settings, but you can certainly do all of those things. And then what will happen is that you're unable to bypass the policy check either, because it's happening at each and every entity who's participating in the process. So this is like when you build a startup, or in the Unbound days, you're looking at different use cases of your technology. This is like where it fits like a perfect glove. The field back then was very new, it was very volatile, it was unclear where it was going. But the fact that MPC as a technology fit what the cryptocurrency world needed for key protection became very, very clear very early.
And what did you do with that information?
So then we started selling also. We built a product that would provide a solution, not just for protecting keys for database encryption for banks, or just as an example, code signing, but also for cryptocurrency protection. And
but you mentioned that you have like a broad tech stack, and it's not just MPC. So like, what else is your product?
Yeah, so in Coinbase, we very much, but also in Unbound, in Coinbase, it's very significant because Coinbase has a very, very strong security team, not just a cryptography team. If you remember that I said cryptography is about protecting devices from external threat or internal threat that you don't trust each other. By the way, one of the big advantages of MPC is you don't have to trust any single machine, and insider threat is a massive challenge for organizations today. North Korea is working very hard to try to infiltrate companies and succeed sometimes. There's also trying to bribe employees. So being able to build a system that doesn't rely on any single person, a single entity, is a very big advantage. So the first thing you have to think about is that, okay, so I said that you have to break into a full quorum in order to steal anything. You have to make it very hard to break into those machines. You want to make it really hard to break into any machine. So that requires a very healthy, strong security stack, because I can say, oh yeah, I need to break into 5 machines, but if it's really easy to break into them all because the admin password is admin1234, or if we want to be really, really, hard, we can make our admin password be Satoshi or something. Then it's not going to be, not going to give you a very, very good level of security. The second thing that we do is we combine multiple technologies. So some of the things are roadmap, and some of the things we're doing now. I'm just going to give them as ideas because I'm not obviously going to go into all the exact details of what we're doing at Coinbase. But for example, secure enclaves are a very strong technology that is very far from perfect. Like, I would not want to put a highly valuable cryptocurrency key, Bitcoin key holding millions of dollars inside a secure enclave, whether it's SGX.
What's a secure enclave? Sorry.
Okay. So
I'm a noob.
So I'm a technologist. I'll ask you what's money, and then that's so a secure Intel many years ago, but now AMD and
the dumbed down version for people like me.
Yeah, so what your computer is has a chip which carries out all the computations, accesses memory, does everything that you want. And there is software protection to prevent one piece of software on your machine from accessing another piece of software on your machine. But that software protection is software protection, and it's not perfect. And a secure enclave is supposed to give you a hardware guarantee that you're able to run code in an environment on your machine that nothing else can access. So now I could, for example, put my key inside that secure enclave, and then even if malware took over your machine, they still wouldn't be able to get to that key.
Okay, so what's imperfect about it? Like, it sounds like a great idea.
It's imperfect because you're able to, it's a great idea in theory, but in practice, it's very, very hard to do, and potentially even almost impossible to do when the secure enclave is sharing resources with, I know I'm getting too technical, but sharing resources with the rest of the computer.
Non-secure enclaves.
There are these things called side channel attacks. Now, I'll give you an example of a side channel attack.
Side
channel attack is when you want to take a shower at home, and you're in the middle of your shower, and somebody else starts their shower. What happens at that time? Your shower suddenly goes cold, right? So somebody else in the house is doing something, like your 14-year-old is supposed to be asleep because it's 1 a.m. and you're taking a shower, and suddenly your shower goes cold, and your 14-year-old's in trouble tomorrow because you know they took a shower, but they're in a completely different side of the house. You had no way of knowing they were awake and taking a shower now. But this side channel attack, based on the fact that you have a shared resource, which is the hot water boiler, enables you to know what somebody's doing on the other side of the house.
But like in the classic example, it would be intentional. It wouldn't be just like a drain on the system. Like in the example that you gave, like it wasn't. Okay.
So you're really, you're really paranoid about your 14-year-old. So every 10 minutes or 5 minutes, you go and you turn on the water and you check, is this what I expect if he's not having a shower? And so you run software which will go and automatically go and do this polling and check different things, and you will actually attack
it would basically
the secure
be like
enclave.
Using a shared resource to drain the other aspects of that resource.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if I have malware running on your computer, even though your key is supposed to be protected with secure enclave, I'm actually able to learn what the key is in some way. So these aren't always easy attacks, but these attacks are very much there. And in a world where we're protecting billions of dollars, this is something that we're very concerned about. But on the other hand, it's much, much harder to attack a secure enclave than it is a key in memory. So what are we looking at doing? We're looking at running some of the MPC participants inside a secure enclave. So it's not an either or, but we're adding a layer where now, even if you get to those participants, you can't just steal their shard from memory, because their shard is only used inside the secure enclave. We also have elements of hardware protection. So we can use HSMs to protect the shards before they're actually being used, or even some parts of the computation that doesn't leave that secure hardware. So the idea is to build multiple layers of defense. We have an MPC environment where you have participants who are very different kinds. Some are servers, some are employee devices, their laptops, and some are even a cold element. So a machine that's sitting in a disconnected network behind something called a cross-domain guard, which is typically used in military and government settings to separate networks. We'll put one of the MPC participants behind that. And now suddenly you have these multiple layers of defense in all different ways that makes it very hard to get to that quorum that you need to do anything about.
Very cool. I don't know if you know the answer, but like, do all crypto exchanges have like in-house cryptography teams? Like, this sounds like very forward thinking. It's not something that I've seen.
No, not all of them do. And I think that, but some do, some don't. Some just will buy off-the-shelf products and use them. Coinbase is certainly very advanced. When we got acquired by Coinbase, I asked the CSO why he thinks that Coinbase is the only exchange not have been breached. Not in the sense, doesn't mean that there aren't scam and phishing attacks on Coinbase customers. That happens a lot, unfortunately, and sometimes in very sophisticated ways. But why the actual system has never been breached and money been stolen? And he said he just thinks that we care more than and invest more than the others. Not that we're necessarily smarter or better, but we just care about it a lot. There are certainly companies with strong cryptographic teams out there. I don't want to make comparisons. I can't necessarily do that, but I do think that the level of investment being made today in Coinbase around the key management piece is, I think it's beyond compared to anybody else. I think it's the process that I can say. Remember, I talked earlier on about this idea that sometimes you have like a new academic result, and then people run and implement that. So for us, our process for putting anything into production is we have a theoretical document that will either be something that research that we've done. Again, we're very much a product-oriented research team. We don't do pure academic research for interests. We do research when our product teams come and say, we need to do this, or we have an idea of something that can be done to improve the security of the system, and then we offer that, and they say, yes, that would be great, and then we go ahead and do the research, and we write a full mathematical proof of security, or if there's a paper out there that will help us, we'll read that independently and check that we re-verify the proof, sometimes rewrite parts of it, and then we'll write something called a specification document, which bridges the gap between this theoretical paper and what software engineers actually have to implement, because a lot of theoretical papers just leave out a lot of really important details that may be obvious or may not be, but otherwise things can completely break. And then we go ahead based on that specification, and code is written, not by our team, by the engineering team. Last time I wrote code was in my master's thesis in 1997. No one will let me near code now. But then there's an independent team in Coinbase called BlockSec, which reviews everything that we've done. So they will run that. They work with the cryptographer in-house, and they also work with contractors, professors in leading universities. They will independently review the theoretical document and independently review that the theory matches the specification. And we will independently review the specification matches the code. And then there'll be a pen test by another cryptographically aware pen testing organization who will pen test the code itself. It's really an incredibly rigorous process, which I'm happy about, because Coinbase assets under management, I don't remember, but it's around $400-500 billion. Yeah, I'd rather it doesn't get lost under my watch. At least not my fault.
Do you dabble at all in crypto trading or at least buying?
So I don't actually, but the main reason I don't is because I'm heavily invested in Coinbase. So it's my Coinbase stock is heavily correlated
with the market
to the market. So I think that it's
that you're
financially more
significantly
rational
exposed
to diversify. Exactly. So.
Okay. No, I meant more from like the user experience as well. Just like,
so I do a little bit. Actually, it was very interesting. Not long after we joined Coinbase, about 6 months after we joined, I was playing around with the wallet, and I saw a lot of things that it didn't make sense to me, which is really interesting because I fully understand the theory of everything going on, but the UI sort of like confused me with a lot of the things that, and I think that's part of the problem that the crypto industry is very much led by people who are very deep in the industry. And one of the things I think is to Coinbase's credit, I think the biggest things that they've done is to bring it to the masses. But in order to do that, you need to do something which isn't necessarily the best thing for your crypto forward, crypto native user who, they want to make their choice about where to bridge or, where, how they're going to transfer the USDC. But the regular user doesn't want to think about it. They just want to do something and have it done. They want the result. They don't care. They just want the best way to be automatic for them. And I think that's a really important thing that it's getting a lot better. But just a few years ago, I think that very often, you want to transfer. I want to transfer some USDC to you, and I can do it on Ethereum or on Polygon. One is going to cost me $15. One is cost me 5 cents, but I don't necessarily know. No one tells me that beforehand. And there's sort of things I think that we really need to. We need the wallets to behave like a regular user will expect, which is if I just want to do something, I want to send you $50. I don't want to think about how to do it. I just want you to give me the best way to do it automatically.
I agree. Okay, as a ex computer science professor, but also just as somebody who's studied extensively computer science, a question for you about where the discipline is going in light of everything that's happening in AI. My son, my 14-year-old son, he brought in the example.
The
You
one
weren't
who's
far off.
showering at 1 a.m. in the morning. Yeah.
No, but I legit have a 14-year-old, and he recently had to choose his major in high school. And one of the options is like computer science, which is like, like prep for computer science afterwards. I guess like it gives you bonus points when you're applying for university. And like the whispers among the parents were like, oh no, computer science isn't relevant anymore because of AI. Um, and I've heard the same thing at the university level as well. I wonder what your thoughts are as somebody who's like deeply involved in the industry.
Yeah. So I have an almost 22-year-old who's thinking about doing computer science. So I can give you a good answer. But no, I've thought about this quite a bit. So firstly, it's not just computer science. Ask, are you a lawyer?
I'm a lawyer. Yeah.
Yeah. So AI certainly will replace a lot of the basic legal work, right? I mean, if I
It will
want a
just
contract
change the way we do things. It won't replace
exactly. So
what we do.
exactly. So I think if I want to give you the TLDR sort of, I very much believe in this in the statement that says that AI will not replace people. What AI will do is replace. What will happen though is that people who use AI will replace those who do not use AI. So there are certainly a lot of challenges today with large companies, including Coinbase, who have publicly said that it doesn't make sense for us to hire a junior person as a software engineer when we can have AI do that under the supervision of a senior person. And so we don't need those junior people in the same ways we needed them anymore. Now, of course, that opens a few questions. One is, well, this is exactly to your 14-year-old. One second, if I can't get a junior position, then I'll never become a senior person. So
I'll never get experience, right?
As an employee, that's one thing. But it's not just as an employee. You also have to ask the question regarding the companies themselves. So what's going to happen in 10 years? How are you going to have senior people if you have junior people? But I think I have quite an easy answer for that. And that is that, so for example, in Bar-Ilan University, where I'm still officially on leave, so I'm still actually not just I'm actually a computer science professor, but I've been on leave for 7 years. So,
Okay.
But they're really looking at revamping the program so that when you program in computer science today, you should be programming with AI.
Differently, right?
It doesn't make sense to program without AI. It would be like 40 years ago saying, no, I'm not going to use a compiler and program in C or Pascal. I'm going to program in assembler. Right?
Or
It
don't
doesn't
type
make sense.
right.
You should be exactly. You should be programming now with AI. And so I think that what a junior person can do without AI will not be relevant. But what a junior person can do with AI, and if during your studies, hopefully your university will have realized this and will actually have given you the tools to be a software engineer to program with AI, or otherwise you do it yourself. My 22-year-old just wrote a very sophisticated app all by himself using AI because just for the fun of it. So
Vibe coding.
yeah, I guess, yeah, very much.
Cool.
He has some basic understanding. He did computer science in his high school, so he did with a large project and everything. So he had the basis, which I think is very important. If you don't know anything, I think it's very dangerous. But what you need to think about is when you graduate from your undergrad, you need to be able to do what someone with 3 or 4 years experience could do 5 years ago. And if you can do that, then you will be valuable to the Coinbases and Googles and Microsofts of the world because you already know how to use the AI and be much, much more productive. Beyond that, I want to stress, and it's important for me as a computer scientist, that computer science is not just about programming. Computer science is a scientific discipline. And the advantage of having a university degree versus just knowing how to program is that you understand the fundamentals and basics and you can make those changes and you can understand them much more. Someone who did a computer science degree and took real deep AI courses in universities, so machine learning and deep deep learning, and understands the mathematics behind it, understands how they work, they will be much better prepared to deal with things like adversarial settings for AI. Where is it safe to use or not? What can we expect it to give us and what can we not? They can understand much more about how things are developing. And that's true of other fields as well. It's true, obviously, in cryptography as well and others. So doing a degree is not just a question of, do I need it to get my first job? Some organizations won't take you if you don't have a university degree. Okay. But yeah, many people can get a degree can get a job without having a degree. But are you well prepared for 5, 10, 15 years down the line when there's another radical paradigm shift? Do you understand deeply what you're doing, and therefore you can make that change and understand what's happening? Can you provide additional benefit? Now, it's true that not every computer science graduate is going to be there, but I very much believe that a computer science degree is very valuable for all of those reasons. And if you do the right thing and you learn how to properly utilize all of the best tools out there, then I think it's a win-win situation that it's highly recommended.
That was very helpful. Thank you. Some parting notes that you want to leave with our audience? Like I usually ask where people can follow you to get their best content. I don't know,
I'm
like
not very
what.
good at that. When I
Oh,
was
you are a
CEO of
proliferant
Unbound, I had
poster.
to be. Yeah, I'm not great at doing that. I
Technical
think,
articles. I don't know, like where can people find out all the cool stuff that you guys are building at Coinbase? Those which you're willing to share.
yeah.
I know
So
you're
we,
advising a lot of
Coinbase,
other
yeah.
interesting companies in the industry that are building on similar technologies like Soda Labs. How can we find out about all this cool stuff that you're doing?
Wow. I don't know. It's
I
hard.
stumped you.
Yeah, you did. So there are some things that we are publishing, and a little bit on the blog in Coinbase, and some in academic conferences, and some posts here and there. But we're not as good at that as we potentially could be. I think this is part of the big difference between academia and industry. When I'm in industry, my main focus is on providing the product needs, and then we do what we can to get the message out. Big thing we did was the CB-MPC open source library. We released, that was a massive effort, and it's really a production grade MPC solution for protecting cryptocurrencies. That is a license which is free. Just use it, do whatever you want with it. Not asking for anything. It's not to be monetized. Our belief is that belief of Coinbase is that any breach to any organization is bad for the crypto ecosystem and therefore bad for Coinbase. So we want everybody to be secure, and that was the aim of doing that. So CB-MPC open source library is a great place to find not just code, but all of our theoretical documentation and specifications. It's a lower level MPC engine. We're not open sourcing the full custody solution, obviously, but the MPC engine is fully open source, and we'll be continuing to release to that. So that's certainly one place where you can follow things that we're doing. Beyond that, I'm not sure what I can say, but as parting words, I would just say that I think that the synergy between advanced cryptography and what's actually going to production is amazing and exciting. But I think it's important to understand the rigor that's needed. And the example for what I told you before and about how we're pushing things into production, I think something that all organizations need to think about. Don't just take someone who's taken a cryptography course, will read a paper, and now we'll start implementing. That's dangerous, but it's definitely the right technology, a great technology to have. But it needs a lot more than just running forward without thinking broadly about everything and making sure you do it right. So that's I guess would be my.
Thank you so much, Yehuda. This was great. I really appreciate your time
Thank you very
and for
much.
joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Beyond the Code. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, share with your friends, and to tune in again next week for more fun and insightful conversation.